Reflections on Polysubstance Addiction. Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by Kenny, where he tells us his addiction with poly use. Which, just take a look at all these substances. It's quite a lot. And here's the full report details. Alright guys, today's report we got Kenny talking about his polysubstance use over time. This report may be the most where so many different substances get brought up, hence the term poly use. All starting with just cannabis, and how slowly just his personality and the way his life goes leads him to using other things over time. A big one early on will be heroin, which will be replaced with poppy CT. But really, he covers just about every common substance in this report, and some of the big things that have happened in his life up to this point. It's a really interesting report and really shows a type of user we don't cover too much, but I feel can be common in this community, and that is there's a lot of poly users and abusers. It's really something that's taken a hold of his life, and he was close to death and things turning out terrible in many cases. You'll just see. So I'm sure you'll enjoy this one. Without further ado, let's dive right into this. Psychoactive Preamble. I was born in 2001 in Melbourne, and when I was 2, I remember my parents moved to Brisbane. From a young age, I remember feeling differently wired than those around me. During primary school, I had much more prominent autism and ADHD, and these were left undiagnosed until I was 19. Unfortunately, at school, I just thought there was something wrong with me, which would result in negative self-worth and introversion. I hated myself ages 14 to 16, but I had enough good friends and a girlfriend. I was getting through life okay. Stress AMEB/dad. As my peers began to flourish socially as high school progressed, I remained brain wrecked, stuck inside painful introversion, never expanding from my same group. I planned from the age of 14 I was going to try some drugs when the opportunity presented. Not only did I develop an interest in weed, I began to research MDMA and LSD, substances that seemed a great therapeutic and recreational value. I thought I could use substances to emerge into a comfortable social life and understand what my deal was. Bullying by classmates and a particular teacher in primary school, combined with an inability to communicate and be who I wanted, meant my self-worth was low, a driving factor for me to want to change my whole image and the way I feel. At 16, my best friend Jay was getting into weed, and I was quick to follow. My first times getting high were with weed and starting to drink alcohol at house parties. My girlfriend protested my sudden change in behavior out of concern, a relationship that came to close in the months following. I knew fairly quickly that weed did nothing for my sociability, and wasn't my thing in general. Just 3 weeks from trying cannabis, I took LSD. Spectacular, euphoric psychoanalysis that allowed me to see how connected I truly was to those around me. I frequented LSD in many different environments, oftentimes with my mate Jay. I became the designated tripper in our grade into my final year of high school. I began doing MDMA and Dextroamphetamine at parties, learning to love myself and talk with others. All was great until I experienced a heartbreak later on in the year. Soon to realize how drugs can soothe such mental struggle. Dissociatives like ketamine and DXM I found would pull me out of whatever challenges I was facing, providing permanent relief in some cases. Somewhere around here, I was told to finally stop getting high, as I had been discovered in my room delirious from too much Scopolamine. Already, my drug use was hectic just 1 year in, but it was twice a week rather than daily. I had met online friends in a Discord server in 2020 and decided to label myself as a psychonaut. Psychonaut, in other words, is an individual with polysubstance addiction too smart for their own good. I utilized this server for getting high, chatting, and finding solace in bad behavior. Fast forward to 2021. I decided to withdraw from UQ without academic penalty. I was doing well, but depression, along with course material, led me to seek out music at QUT. With new time on my hands, I discovered Benzodiazepines, which I would use often, and heroin. My mate Jay, who I still hang with, went MIA due to weed psychosis. It is safe to say that my use of drugs was becoming a lot more sinister in nature. Instead of meeting new people and branching out, I was still in the same group of friends. Lockdown didn't help my isolation, as I lived with my parents as an only child. Thankfully, I had my music production at the time. My substance use became problematic when I discovered Poppy CT. In 2022, Poppy CT quickly became my drug of choice since, at the time, the seeds you got were way too easy to find, and the effects made for a 12 to 16 hour opiate high that I could teach piano and drive around just fine on. This use became 500 to 700 grams of seeds a day, all while maintaining my new job. Life was great, until it wasn't. I confessed to my parents my addiction 8 months in, which soon followed a miserable withdrawal at my first rehab, Damascus, Brisbane. I was put on an SARI and stayed completely clean for about half a year until I relapsed later, where I found Pregabalin. In 2023, I started to get dangerous with my use. I reunited with Jay, where we had started making beats and rapping, which made for great fun, especially when on up to 7 or 8 psychoactive substances at once. Much like the mixing table as a producer, I was fine-tuning the feel until I reached heaven-sent bliss and contentment. My spirituality and connection to my higher power at this point was slowly and surely severed, and drugs had unknowingly become my higher power. Jay and I moved out together into a share house with 3 new people who were the primary owners. My drug use increased along with Jay's, and I ended up overdosing on methadone bought on the street. My dad saved me just in time. Somehow, I was in a coma for 3 days and woke up in the ICU, with my last memories being a frantic hospital scene where I struggled to stay conscious. The doctors informed me I passed out laying on, of all things, a nitrous oxide dispenser. I spent the next 2 weeks learning how to walk again. The shame was unbelievable. I almost died, and left my parents and everyone else behind. Jay and I were asked to leave the house, and now it's back to square one. I started having around 4 beers a night to help with forgetting it all, but stayed clear from other drugs, until I got a message on my phone from my heroin dealer, acting all friendly. Not a real friend, I thought. I'm doing lines with her 1 week later. At this point, my only close friend is Jay. It's March 2024 when my substance use became daily. Here I am using intranasal heroin, amphetamines, Valium, Pregabalin, Antipsychotics, and Poppy CT, and one all-encompassing, fucked-up rotation in order to function at work, drive safely, and to mitigate any negative side effects. It was so very exhausting, but I had grown on to enjoy the chaos. My enjoyment would start vanishing when Jay discovered his love for smoking ice. I would watch his fixation on the act of using it. I would join in sometimes, usually by swallowing shards. Jay lacked self-awareness. In a hypocritical way, I would tell him how meth feels safe and friendly, only to chip away at your morals, humanity, and soul. I had been frequenting a harm reduction clinic and had a psychiatrist with connection to supports. Jay was not interested and denied he needed rehab in the end. At some point, I had swallowed some ice, Pregabalin, and different benzodiazepines, along with serotonergic psychiatric medication. I proceeded to black out. I came to filling up my car with petrol at 3 a.m. in a state of unity and euphoria. I was on the brink of psychosis. I ended up face to face with 3 police officers. I told them the truth and that I may be experiencing serotonin syndrome. I let them take blood and was charged with a DWI. They parked my car in the 7-Eleven, as I got away with just a fine. That night, they hadn't seen me behind the wheel, so they drove me back to Jay's house, and I proceeded to take more drugs. I dodged a bullet, and I felt invincible. 3 days later, I overdosed on GHB, and I woke up in the ICU, clawing at my face because I let it happen again. Meth psychosis. Due to my knowledge in street pharmacology, I was always quick to dismiss many pleas and warnings from others. In reality, it scares me how lucky I am to be alive.